Hey guys, Andy and Dave from another Tuesday Tune-In, the first Tuesday Tune-In, which is actually outside of the office or our homes, Dave.
I know I feel very, very peculiar about it, but no, it's awesome.
And now I'm listening to myself talk.
It's not like we haven't had long to perfect this technology. Steve and Zach are here setting up this amazing setup, and they're watching us just completely trample all over their efforts. But no, it's awesome. So yeah, we've left sunny Wales for sunny London to come and visit our friends at the Altitude Centre. You would have heard us talking about them before. They're the science to our experience. They're the guys that really, give you the information that dispels the fear.
Exactly. No, it's really stoked to be here. We've done a little bit of testing before, heart rate, oxygen levels. It's been quite interesting to see the numbers. It's been almost 18 months since Altitude Day.
You beat me, didn't you? I know it's not a competition. But I was a bit upset.
We'll look at the stats in a bit. But right, and we're with James, who's all the way from the Altitude Centre. James, welcome to the live, mate.
Thank you very much. It's great to finally have you down. I feel like I've been talking to you through a screen for the last 8
I know.
How long it's been? It's been really good, so good to have you here.
We're a bit zoomed out at the moment, aren't we?
I think so.
Literally
zoomed
out.
I will never do another Zoom quiz as long as I live.
That's a huge statement, but I back you on it.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, but we should say actually that you've right off the bat, your resume, you've summited Kili.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you know what altitude feels like?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So I guess to introduce myself. My name's James. I'm the lead performance specialist here at the Altitude Centre. That's my kind of gig, kind of role here. I've summited Kili myself and worked to help prepare people basically for Kili, Everest Base Camp, but then anything higher than that as well. So we've had an Everest season just gone. We've got people lining up some 7,000-8,000 meter peaks across the next couple of months going into December as well. So
proper altitude.
Yeah, no, it's all proper altitude. It just affects you differently. Right now we're sitting at 2,700 meters, so it's kind of like being in the high Alps. So if you've been, when you've been skiing before, that kind of thing, it's the kind of level that you usually ski from. But then
for us, this is Lukla, which is Lukla's 2,800 meters on the Everest Base Camp track.
Let's not split hairs.
Let's go down a little bit. I just in the mindset now, I can feel myself. Facting.
It's about facting. I mean, it's really great to be here. I remember we did a course with you, an online course, and learned a lot. And ever since then, we've understood the value in it. And we've really wanted to kind of introduce it to everyone and come down here and, guinea pig ourselves.
Yeah, absolutely.
I said we're going to see how we get on now. So basically the kind of agenda for the day. Obviously, we've had a little bit of intro now. We're going to jump on the machines. I'll be on the treadmill. I'm not running, you know me, I'm a base camp pace. Going to be on the altitude masks, and then we're going to look at the stats. We're going to go up a few levels, James, is that right?
That's right, yeah. So we'll basically see how you respond to just to this level, just to walking at 2,700 meters, kind of get you going, get you into it, and then just start cranking up the altitude, really. Go to about 4,000 meters, go to just over 5,000 meters. And obviously we've already, before we came on, we've tested how you respond to those altitudes just passively without exercising. So then it'll be good to see now how, when we kind of start layering in the walking, you actually respond to that as well. So it'll be interesting.
And then Dave is going to be jumping on the bike because we don't want you doing much walking, mate.
I know. I'm unable to do the walking, so I'm going to be cycling. But I imagine it'll be much the same type of experience,
exactly.
If not worse, knowing my luck.
And then sort of after that then, because we've had a bunch of questions come in already, so we're going to be doing obviously a Q&As like we normally do on the lives. Answering all the questions, anything that you want us or James to answer today, don't forget to put that in the comments, so we can answer it on the live. Obviously, we've got the expertise of James put his time aside to do that, so we can talk about maybe the science, any scientific. Putting you on, pressure's on you now.
Yeah, I was going to say, sorry, thanks for loading this up. Yeah.
James will know the answer to absolutely every question, not just altitude related, but obviously any other stuff you need to talk about.
Brilliant.
So
hello, Nick.
The one thing I'm going to be doing as well, I should say, is I'm going to have my phone in my hand, so I can get the comments and.
Well, I want to see who's on. Obviously, you've got Dave Ribbington. I know Ramona's on here somewhere. Marky V, Morag. Who we got? We got Jerome. Namaste, Jerome. Hey, Evertrek. We got Tamarin. Tamarin, it's been a while. I haven't seen you on the live. Alan Smith. What a bloke. Done Everest. How old's Alan? Alan Smith. 71, 72. He did Everest Base Camp with us. Absolute legend of a guy.
Yeah, absolutely legend.
Mark Torlin. Mark, love your coffee. Joel sent us a gift the other day.
Joel
Love
sent us
that.
an
Joel Palmer's on the line.
Yeah, sent us an amazing gift. It's I think it's like a Korean tea set.
It's amazing.
Honestly.
Right.
I'm beginning to feel a bit awkward because people do send us like these things, but I'll be honest with you, like, keep doing it, I guess. I mean, but yeah, we had one of them send us in some tea. It was called Yeti.
Oh yeah, nice.
Which is really
very
nice.
good.
Like a play on words.
Yeah.
And then we've got the this lovely sort of tea set to bring in to the office. We've had stuff sent from Australia.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Well, if anyone
all the way
wants to
from
send
the-
us things, we are the Altitude Centre.
Yeah, exactly.
No, it's great. It's great. Here we go. Yeah, we got some, and you'll see at the bottom of the screen as well. Just in terms of the consultation with the Altitude Centre, we got a nice little 30% off for everyone. So yeah, do email the guys. I think that might come across on the screen during the live. But right, yeah, should we crack on?
Yeah, I think so.
And get started. Are we ready to crack on? Yeah, we good?
That's it.
Nice.
I like the way we looked at Steve.
I know. I want to check the text. All good. Dave, would you like to go first or second?
We got it set up with a treadmill.
Okay,
First,
we'll
so
go first.
Jump on a treadmill
Steve's telling me I'm going second.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, to your right.
Let's put the mask on then.
Yeah. Steve's in full director mode.
Yeah, well,
here,
given that I've set everything up for the treadmill first, then
Right, let's see how we get on.
we're all good.
Okay.
So yeah, to begin with, we're not going to need the mask just to begin with. If you
Okay.
just pop that in the side of the
let's go
treadmill.
for it.
Because as I say, in here in the room, we're at 2,700 meters already.
Yeah.
So all we're going to do to
Lookla.
begin with is So we're going to have a look and basically see just how your physiology responds to this one. So
Okay.
we get the treadmill going.
Fat burner. Oof.
Flat terrain.
That's right. This doesn't matter too much. And what we're going to do is crank the incline up to 12% incline.
12%. Okay.
And then go 3 kilometers an hour. So it's base camp pace, as you say. This is a real chilled out, easy pace at 2,700 meters. And then what you'll see as we go through is
3 miles
how,
an
as
hour.
we start to crank up the
Incline. Oh yeah. Wow.
incline,
This is coming up. This is Namche Hill, by the way.
Yeah. So at 2,700 meters, probably find that this doesn't bother you too much. But then as we start to build up the altitude that little bit further, you'll start to notice it. So what we're going to do is
Nice.
pop blood oxygen saturation monitor on your
This
finger.
one? Yeah.
Yeah, because then I can see
Okay.
it.
Awesome.
So all we're going to do basically throughout the session today is track your
Yeah.
blood oxygen saturation and your heart rate.
Yeah.
And it's really the blood oxygen saturation that's most interesting. So try and keep
Yeah.
your hands just off the treadmill belt there
Okay.
and just
Just
keep
walking
moving
normal, yeah?
freely. Yeah, exactly. And all we're going to do is just 5 minutes here, really just seeing how your blood oxygen saturation responds to being at this altitude.
5 minutes.
Yeah.
Any questions while I'm on here, guys?
Yeah,
Do put the
Well, I'm
comments on.
looking. Jerome has asked, "Will you fart when we depressurize?"
Interesting.
I don't know. I'll try and hold it in, Jerome.
I'll be honest, that's the level, James. But
Yeah.
actually, so
Yeah.
before we came in here, you mentioned that we were doing some like baseline tests.
That's
and
right,
stuff
yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
Are you expecting to see a steep decline in his statistical results?
Statistical results, very scientific. I like that.
Yeah, that's what we're going with.
Yeah, sure. So yes, to some extent, but that's kind of the point of testing, because if we could say what we expect to see and apply that to everyone, then there'd be no need to do it. You know, everyone's quite individual. So for you guys both, actually, you responded quite well to the altitude when you were just resting, when you were just sitting there.
Yeah.
So what's going to be quite interesting now is that as we start to get you exercising, to see how you respond there. So we're just coming up through the first couple of minutes on this one. If I just take a quick look at your fingertip there. So your blood oxygen saturation is down at 92%.
Yeah.
Which, you know, is fine. That's fairly normal response in here. But it's a big difference between when you were just resting. So when you were resting and you were at 5,100 meters, you know, your blood oxygen was 95%. It was higher than that, even though you were at a much higher altitude. So actually just the addition of exercise, even at quite a low altitude, has made quite a difference there.
Yeah, we have, Andy, it's been spotted that you're wearing jeans while trekking, which we've advised people never to do.
Very good.
But secondly, so we have got...
This is artificial now.
So
94, he's going up.
So and neither of us are wearing boots or anything. But one quick question we do have, which I'm just going to throw all these altitude questions to you today, James.
Yeah, that's probably the
why does alcohol have such a bad effect at altitude? But drinking loads of water has the opposite effect. That's from Brian.
Yeah, I mean, it's the second thing there that you've said, really, Brian. It's about the hydration. Drinking loads of water is absolutely the key thing to be doing, because being at altitude has a diuretic effect.
Yeah.
You know, as you guys know. So the more that you can replace that water that you're losing through the urine, but also through your breath. You know, it's cold, the air is very dry, you lose a lot of water through your breath. So the more that you're replacing that, the better. And then anything that dehydrates you even further is an absolute no-go. So that's the main reason for staying away from alcohol from an altitude point of view. And other than that, you're exerting yourself. If you're exerting yourself, you don't really want to be on the beers. Just have another quick look there. 93, perfect. So go for another 90 seconds or so on this one. How are you feeling at this point, though?
Feeling good.
Yeah?
I think, I'm looking forward to getting to Namche, the Irish bar. You're not allowed to drink any alcohol in the Irish bar.
Absolutely.
No, hydration's key, isn't it?
Yeah.
If 9 times out of 10, any altitude sickness is related to hydration that we've seen on the trips, yeah?
Yeah, I think it's one of the
We
first
talk about
things
it so
that
much.
any sort of high altitude medical look at when someone's feeling ill.
Yeah.
Is they'll check their hydration levels, check what they've been drinking historically. And me and you were having a off the live chat earlier about it, and you said when you were climbing Kilimanjaro, the only time that you actually felt like altitude was winning was when you stopped drinking.
That's right. Yeah. I mean, it was, and only within the space of about half an hour.
Yeah.
It happened that quickly that just allowed myself to become dehydrated over that time. And then it was, it's reversed so quickly. I was fortunate that I was able to do all the training in here. So actually, I was relatively, came away from it relatively lightly.
Yeah.
But still.
Yeah.
Cool. So just coming last 20 seconds or so on this one, and I'll just take a last reading on there as well. So you come down to 93%, heart rate's about 132, 131.
That's quite
So
high,
you can see actually, even though this is a relatively light intensity of exercise, it has had an effect on you there.
100%.
Yeah, if you want to just jump off the treadmill there, so if you take your weight through your arms, whoops. Sorry, I only meant off the side, but
Are you insured, James?
We are.
This is me now.
Yeah, I was going to say I'm insured, but I don't know about you guys.
Yeah.
Sorry, all I meant was just off the side, but that's fine. We'll stop it there. And what we'll do is get you hooked up now. So I'll take the one back from you there, and I'll get you to. If you put your mask on here, so you've already done that.
That's the bottom one, isn't it? Is that right, the bottom one? Yeah?
It's the top one. So if you pop it on, you had it on the right one, but that then is the top.
Ah, I see. Here we go.
One,
Cool.
Perfect. Whack that on there. Just give this a little bit of time to get going. And then what we're doing here with the machine is basically taking air from the room, removing some more of the oxygen from it, and then feeding it through the tubing that you're then breathing through the mask. So before you were breathing air that was about 15% oxygen. So that's how we get to 2,700 meters. We're going to take that down now to 13% oxygen, which is going to take you to about 3,800 meters equivalent. Okay.
Nice. So Everest View Hotel, if you're listening,
Yeah.
watching.
It's all right. Sweet. So we're going to start again slowly on this one, and it's going to be exactly the same gig again. So 3 kilometers an hour, 12% incline. And all throughout this 5 minutes, we'll just pop the blood oxygen monitor back on.
Okay. Cool.
And so it's a bit of a frame of reference when we tested you passively, so without any exercise, but we had you breathing air that was at this altitude. Your blood oxygen was staying 96% was the lowest you got down to. So it didn't really have too much of an effect on you while you were just sitting there.
Yeah.
But then as we've already seen, layering in that level of exertion and that exercise actually does start to influence that quite
Well, now Andy's masked up, we're going to give him a quick fire cue. So we've had a couple of technical questions. So we've been asked how this room is kept at 2,700 meters.
Yeah, so it's kind of, it's like a sealed room, and then we take air from outside, filter it through a number of times, and basically split some of the nitrogen out of it, and feed lots of that nitrogen in. So normal air that you're breathing would be 21% air. 21% of that air would be oxygen, and in here only 15% of the air is oxygen, because we filter in a little bit more nitrogen. And then the machines that we're using work on the same premise. So right now 13% of the air that he's breathing is oxygen, and then we'll take that down again to get the altitude higher.
Okay. And I suppose that's the big difference, because we did have a question about whether those altitude masks, or I think they just call them like restricted breathing masks now. That's the thing that they don't do, right? Because you're still breathing in the oxygen, which is as rich as it is without the mask, but it's just like breathing through a straw.
That's exactly the analogy that I would use. They don't. So in order to simulate altitude, what you need to do is change something called the partial pressure of oxygen, and that's a combination of the air pressure and the concentration of oxygen in that air. So when you're at altitude, 21% of the air is still oxygen, but there's less air pressure, so there's less air overall.
Yeah.
What we do is the reverse of that. We keep the air pressure the same, but reduce the oxygen concentration. Has exactly the same effect on the body in terms of acclimatization, and it's a much easier way of simulating it as well, because we don't have to deal with pressure locked doors and all the rest of it.
Yeah.
So let's just take a quick reading from you there. 89, good stuff. Cool. How are you feeling on this one? So far, so good? Just coming up
good,
through
yeah.
halfway on this one?
Yeah.
Good stuff.
Everest View Hotel, they have really good coffee.
Yeah,
So that's my motivation now.
yeah, nice.
Yeah, I'm not sure what that sounds like on the mic, but what Andy said was.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, it's a 90, that's not bad.
yeah,
There we go, yeah.
I mean, it is really, really fascinating, I think, to see this sort of thing. I mean, it was strange when I first came into this room, and we were chatting for ages. I think it was at least 20 minutes before I realised it was 2,700 meters.
Yeah.
And then immediately I started thinking, can I feel anything?
Yeah, yeah.
But
Yeah.
no, it's absolutely fine.
Yeah.
Um,
So, I mean, generally you won't feel anything too much when you're just sitting at that sort of altitude. But as you saw, when we start putting in the exercise, and we have people doing high intensity exercise in here,
Yeah.
because obviously altitude training traditionally, you know, endurance athletes, runners, cyclists, triathletes, that sort of thing,
Yeah.
or people looking for basically more bang for their buck from a workout as
Yeah.
well. So if you know got people trying to lose weight, get fit, get healthy, whatever, come in here for like a 30-minute spin class, 2,700 meters. That's when you really start to notice it. Just
Yeah.
sitting in here, maybe a little bit less so. But when you're doing the exercise, that's when you really start to notice
I mean,
it.
that does answer a question from Parisha that's asked. So the two guys standing there, that's Dave and James.
Yeah.
And there are actually two others. Breathing air as if at 2,700
That's right.
meters, that's right.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
so-
just come out through the last minute, man.
Ramona has raised an interesting question about, she knows that when going to altitude, acclimatization is obviously really important.
Yeah.
How do we account for that when checking the body's responses at the altitude center? But then this is like, this would be day one of an overall acclimatization program.
That's absolutely right. This is saying if you're coming in here for your consultation that we're going through now, this is saying, okay, if you were to go to altitude tomorrow, this is what the state of play would be. This is how you would actually respond. And then from that, it's about putting a plan in place to either improve or whatever it is that we actually need to do. Because it might be that you're in a really good place and we can start focusing a little bit more on fitness and other aspects. It might be that your acclimatization is not so good, and that's what's highlighted in this baseline test.
Yeah.
And then we say, okay, you've got 2-3 months. Let's do this. Let's do some of this walking with the mask on. Let's train like this. Let's exercise at 2,700 meters. Let's do some passive exposures to higher altitudes. And we can put that plan in place. So that's the key thing really is that this is a baseline that we then build from. That's the key thing really. We're just coming up through that 5-minute mark now. So I'm just going to take that last reading back up towards 90, which is good, and just stop that one there. Perfect. And all
Shall I do it properly then?
yeah, that's fine. That's what I intended the first time around, but I like it. That's fine.
Awesome.
And we're just going to keep the mask on for now, just to see how your blood oxygen saturation starts to recover when you stop walking, because it's kind of that feeling of you're going along, you're trekking, but then you stop to take a drink, take a rest, and how does your blood oxygen saturation recover from there, basically? So we'll just see where it starts to come back up to on that one.
Jim Blues has asked James, how does it affect blood pressure, and if there is any effect on that?
Yeah, differently chronically and acutely.
Yeah.
So when you're actually at altitude, your blood pressure might be just slightly higher because you've got less oxygen in your blood, but you've still got the same demand for oxygen from the muscles in the brain, so your heart rate goes up.
Yeah.
And anytime your heart rate goes up, your blood pressure goes up a little bit. So acutely, your blood pressure might go up a little bit. But with a course of altitude training, it's really good for lowering blood pressure.
Yeah.
We find that actually across the course of 5-6 weeks, blood pressure starts to come down quite significantly.
Yeah.
Perfect. So your blood oxygen saturation's just come back up to resting levels, 96, 97%, and quite quickly too, which is really nice. So again, it kind of backs up what we were seeing before, that actually when you're resting, you tolerate the altitude really well. It's just putting that level of exertion in that just starts to top it up a little bit further. If you want to take the mask off there, just see how you, what you got to kind of say about that, how you felt with that one.
Yeah, it's quite interesting.
He's in the helicopter now, he's in the helicopter.
He's back now.
Back and look there, wow,
Yeah,
okay.
it's all right, just grab onto that one.
No, it's quite interesting. I mean, when you are at altitude, there's acclimatization involved. And I think, naturally, obviously my body still remembers, luckily.
Yeah.
It's been a long time. And I think with with altitude. I mean, doing that, it's great to simulator, isn't it? I mean, especially, I know we've talked about this off camera about how, getting people to feel comfortable at altitude, and I know it simulates it. Yeah, I love the science around it. Like, I'm not sure if any questions have come up about this, but just one for yourself, James, around, altitude, obviously your blood thickens level, thickens more. It creates more red blood cells, is that right?
Yeah, so it's kind of two ways or two pathways for which your blood thickens. The first is the creation of red blood cells, which is a good thing. Because the red blood cells is how you carry oxygen around your body, so that's good. But then also because of the dehydration that we're talking about, you're losing loads of water in your breath. You lose water through your urine. That water comes from somewhere. It comes from the blood. So that's then why when people are starting to struggle with altitude sickness, headache is one of the first things. Because of the thick blood going through the brain, basically. It's one of the things that kicks in there.
It's interesting.
Felt good on that one?
Yeah, I think a big learn, and I know something I've shared a lot, is that I suppose that's the perfect example, is that if for altitude you feel like you're overexerting yourself, just stop and have a rest.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because slow and steady, as always, is the best way forward. But let's go up.
There is quite a few comments actually about the exertion.
Yes.
About how carrying kit will also have a different effect. And also your pace in which you're walking and things like that.
That's right, yeah. So as soon as you start introducing load carriage, your level of exertion is going up again, and you know that anecdotally, but it's what there's research that shows that as well. That actually, for a given walking pace, introducing load carriage starts to increase the symptoms of altitude sickness just because that exertion goes up. So then, as you say, it's about being better prepared, but then about how you manage yourself when you're on the mountain.
Yeah, absolutely, exactly. No, that was great, yeah.
Perfect. So we're going to crank it up again now.
Okay.
We've given the machine a little bit of time to come up to altitude, and we're going 5,100 meters now, which is...
Gorakhsha.
Yep.
Which is just before base camp, guys.
There we go.
So you see what it's like getting to base camp.
Yeah.
Getting to Gorakhsha.
So, an interesting question I have: if you were to, dispel your duty to take good care of Andy now, what is the highest that we could crank him up to?
In here we...
I've got a dodgy ankle.
Well, no, I just mean if we, because I'm fascinated by the technology as much as I am the science of acclimatization.
So the machine's got to about 6,500 meters, which is about as high as you can acclimatize the body to.
Yeah.
So even when we're sending people to the 7,000ers, we're really trying to get people to acclimatize as well as they can to about 6,000 meters, so that then that extra bit they can tolerate well. And they're as comfortable as they possibly can for as long as they possibly can be. And then that last little bit comes down to how they've managed themselves on the mountain.
Yeah. So, Parisha has also asked that as well. What is the highest altitude we can test? So 6,500.
Yeah.
We can't suddenly put Andy on 8848.
Yeah.
Unless my hand slips.
Yeah.
So, Ramona has asked a question. So Ramona, I know, has already done base camp. I know she had some difficulties while she was there with acclimatizing.
Yeah.
So she's also, I think, had... I'm going to go with open heart surgery and stuff like that. So she's asked for, is there any advice for someone with those types of problems, particularly cardiovascular issues?
Yeah.
When going to altitude, is there anything she can do to kind of...
Yeah, I mean, the key thing would be to, a couple of key things there, really. Obviously, if you've had issues with being at altitude before, then the first thing to do is to understand whether those issues were something related to your physiology, or whether that was to do with how you manage yourself on the mountain.
Yeah.
So actually having the assessment to work out, was it something that could have been prevented with better management would be one thing, or is it something that actually you need to acclimatise better for? And therefore, kind of being as well prepared as possible before actually heading out is going to be one of the key things.
So actually, Ramona, something like this might be good for you, because you could technically put you through the paces.
Yeah.
And try and work out exactly what it is about altitude that triggered her symptoms.
That's right. Yeah, we start to do that, and then the other thing as well with anyone with any medical issues going to altitude is to have proper medical advice on that. We can advise on the altitude side of things, but it's really important to stress that we're not a medical facility, and that the people to talk to are the doctors.
Yeah. So Ramona, make sure you speak to your cardiologist.
That's right.
Because we accept no responsibility for sudden and acute heart explosion.
Yeah. I'm just going to take a quick look at you again. 86. So you're going nicely on this one. 2.5 minutes through on this one, which is good. Good point to get to on the test.
Dave Rimington, he's going to hook himself up to a vacuum nozzle later when he goes home.
What you do in your own time?
Yeah,
Wow.
TMI, I think TMI.
Don't try this at home, is that
So Paul Meacher says see you next Wednesday.
Oh yeah, hi Paul.
So let's have a quick look. So there's a question about Diamox.
Yes.
Now Diamox is an interesting one that I've used myself on Kilimanjaro.
Yeah.
But actually maybe you could explain a little bit about what Diamox actually does for the body.
Yeah.
And I mean, everyone's got an opinion on it.
Yeah.
So I think whether people take it and how they take it, I always say, listen to your guide.
That's right. Yeah.
But in terms of what Diamox is and what it does for the body,
yeah, it's it's a prescription drug, but it's a drug for glaucoma.
excellent.
Which is why, yeah, exactly. Which is why often people will be a bit reticent to take it, because if you've not got glaucoma, should you be taking prescription drugs and all that sort of thing? But what it seems to do is, anecdotally, and there is evidence to suggest that it does help with kind of prevention and alleviation of symptoms of altitude sickness.
Yeah.
And it works in the blood to kind of sort of buffer what's happening in the blood.
Yeah.
And you can take it as a course of medication, you can take it to relieve symptoms. The choice is kind of yours on that. And then there are different ways that you can dose it depending on how you're experiencing your symptoms, whether you're experiencing symptoms upon waking or during the day or before you go to bed. So you can dose it differently as well. The key thing really with Diamox is that, or the two things I would say, are that if you decide that you're going to take it, then make sure you've taken some when you're in this country, because it does have some side effects. You want to be aware of those side effects before you get there. You want to know how it affects you. And the second thing is that it is in itself a diuretic. So you're already at altitude.
Yeah.
You're already in a situation which is making you dehydrated. If you then take Diamox on any given day, drink another litre of water on top of what you're already drinking.
Yeah, I'm really glad you said that as well, because
You're going really well on this one.
he's breathing a bit heavy, is that normal?
He is breathing very heavily, and that's one of the things we'll talk about actually after this one. It's really
something
noticeable.
I do a lot at altitude,
Yeah,
just because I know it works for me.
Yeah.
And obviously with asthma,
yeah.
I'm used to getting those big, lungfuls of air.
Yeah.
Definitely helps me
Yeah.
a bit, but
Yeah.
No, that's
that
excellent.
was good.
Yeah, no, that's really good. So again, we see the blood oxygen's fall into the low 80s, which is actually an excellent result on that test. Often we see the blood oxygen fall to below 75%, which is a bit of a cut-off for us.
Okay.
And we see that usually within the first couple of minutes. So that's an excellent result on that test. But what you do see as well, obviously you've got the heavy breathing going on, which is an adaptive response that helps maintain the blood oxygen. But your heart rate's much higher as well. So you finished up at a heart rate of 149 on that one, whereas when you were 2,700, you were more like mid 120s.
Yeah.
So just adding in that altitude has really had quite an effect on you, and your blood oxygen is coming up that little bit more slowly this time. Heart rate's recovering that little bit more slowly. It's had more of an effect on you. I mean, you can hear that just from the breathing.
He's making me feel like out of breath.
You're going to love this thing.
I know, but yeah, it maybe take some Diamox before you come next time. But no,
This is fine. This
it's
is
interesting
perfect.
what you said about the Diamox as well, because I've been to EBC multiple times and never felt like I needed it. When I went to Kilimanjaro, I did.
Yeah.
And I took it not as like a prophylactic, but like as a response to altitude.
Yeah.
Half a pill twice a day.
Take mask off.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah,
Thanks, James.
Yeah, and that's the thing you say about half
was
a
great.
pill twice a day. You can take it, dose it like that if you're feeling the effects across the course of the day. Some people will find that actually they'll feel the effects of altitude more so when they wake up because they're dehydrated from the night before, so you can take it all then. And some people, we were talking before about the Cheyne-Stokes respiration, so that feeling of waking up in the middle of the night feeling really short of breath, that can be one of the big ways that altitude affects people. So for those people, they might want to take it before they go all of it before they go to bed, rather than dosing it.
Well, the one big thing that I noticed as well is it will disturb your sleep because you will be getting up in the night to go to the toilet.
That's right.
So that is a guy like when I took it and I was in the tent with Andy, I was like, sorry mate, like 2-3
But it does
times a
happen,
day.
Spot on.
I know we're going to move on to Dave now, but
Yeah.
before we do, I suppose, and some people might feel this, is that what you were talking about there, where people wake up from sleep and go,
Yeah.
and that's what you mean, isn't it?
That's right.
the
Yeah,
Cheyne-Stokes,
exactly. Yeah. So that's Cheyne-Stokes respirations. It's it does happen. I wouldn't go as far as to say it's normal because it is a sign that you're not acclimatized. But
I've had it a few times.
Yeah.
Especially the first couple of times.
My dad
Not
had
lately.
it, and actually I think Diamox, that's one of the things that it does anecdotally help with. Because my father had it. He went to Everest Base Camp with me the first time, stopped short of Everest Base Camp, turned back. All through he was having that sleeping problem.
Yeah.
The next time he took Diamox, half and half, like we
Yes.
said, and that stopped that
Yeah.
problem. But you do have to drink, 4 or 5 liters a day to compensate for
that's right.
But it's a good thing, right? It's what the body should be doing, right? As you say, as in, if it's triggered you to breathe like that,
Yes.
it's done its job.
That's right. Yeah. That's exactly it.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
what
yeah.
you should be doing. Yeah. That's exactly right.
Right.
Perfect. How you
Thanks.
feeling? Feeling
Awesome.
good?
Yeah, feeling
Excellent.
strong.
Good stuff.
I want to go back to Gorek Shep now.
So, Andy, I'm going to hand over responsibility
Yes.
for the
Comments?
the
I'll jump on my
commenting to
phone,
you.
so yeah, you
so
can-
I'm on the usual WhatsApp.
Yeah,
There's
no
quite a
worries.
few on there coming in.
Okay,
Sweet.
great stuff. Yeah.
Fantastic.
You go for it.
Okay, so we're going to jump on the bike now because of the old
Enjoy, Dave.
knee
Spectacles.
situation.
Yeah.
Yeah, the knee situation is one of those. Yeah, that
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
having knee surgery is not conducive to functioning well at altitude. I found.
I mean, it's not great for functioning, really. Is it?
Functioning
Yeah.
at all. Yeah.
So I'll just move a little bit of space here and we'll just bring the bike in. That should be good. And we are basically going to do similar sort of testing
This one?
now.
Yeah.
How do you want that one set up? If we just bring it through
Nice.
to there.
If I move that
Happy with
there
that one?
where it was.
Perfect. So it's going to be the same idea in terms of the testing, but obviously just on the bike.
I should put bad leg on first. I'm going to go
Yeah,
in.
I was
see
gonna
what
say,
I'm
I'm
gonna
gonna
go in
with
like this.
one. Yeah,
Hopefully
everything on the bike is adjustable in terms of the saddle height and all the rest of it. So
Hold that
should
for
be
me
good
because I
here.
haven't got clips.
Yeah,
There
that's
we go.
fine. So we're in there, and then we'll go
As
same
we're doing
again.
this, guys, don't forget any questions,
This is really
any
graceful.
further questions.
Yeah.
You okay?
And let me just check the extension on the knee. Perfect.
Yeah, happy with that?
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah, this is really good. I'm just reading through some of the questions, guys,
Back
just
on
to
the
see what's
bike.
coming through. Dave, you're on the bike. It's great to see you
Yeah,
on the bike.
I'll be honest, I prefer my saddle. That's it, mate. Dial
Is,
that down to
I
one.
know there's a couple here. It's great. There's so many questions coming
My
in.
little game.
It's really good, guys. It's great to see so many questions. While I was doing that, because I was trying to focus, did you talk about aspirin at all?
No.
Because there's a few questions that came up about aspirin, which we will answer in a second once Dave's up and running.
Yeah, that's fine.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, no stress. We're just gonna introduce it now. So all we're gonna do, so on the Watt bikes, there's so much data that we can get from the Watt bikes, as you know.
Yeah.
But all we're gonna get you to do is just pedal at a really good consistency on this one. So
How's the leg, Dave? All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, leg feels fine, mate. Yeah.
Feel good?
Leg feels fine, yeah. It's more the arse.
I have to beat that out later, Steve.
Yeah. So if you take your cadence up more towards 80 or 90 RPM, so you're just putting a little bit more work in. And actually,
Paula Reed says, no falling off, Dave. James Ashley says, Dave, helmet and harness so you don't fall off. Okay?
Yeah.
and then
Everyone's
we're just
worried
gonna
about
put
you,
this
Dave.
one on there.
Tour de France, here we go. That's from
Here we go,
Ramona.
yeah.
Yeah.
Perfect. So you just back off a little bit. If you just hover more around 80.
Dave, I
with
think
the
we forgot
RPM.
to ask. You need to put your Maindel Boutons on.
My Maindel Boutons, okay, yeah. Right, get your pens ready.
Perfect. So we'll do same again. This is just quite a nice light exercise intensity.
Yeah. Is that okay, speed?
Yeah, it feels fine, yeah.
Good, yeah. Be careful with that knee, Mark says.
Yeah.
This is bringing this. It's like.
I have told him, Mark, but he couldn't resist.
No, it's okay. I've been doing physio on the bike, so.
Well, and what you will find is that actually a lot of the way that the Premier League football clubs and those guys are using their altitude training is actually in rehab. So they'll be doing this sort of thing because what you'll find as we start to crank up the altitude is that even though you're pedaling at quite a light intensity, your heart rate will start going up and up and up. So you get a good cardiovascular workout without actually loading your
Doing well, Dave.
loading
Doing
yourself
really well.
too much.
Well, everyone's there. I'm going to take on a couple of questions
Yeah.
while you're going through that. We talked about aspirin.
Yes.
So, someone was asking about taking aspirin at altitude. I think it was Mick and also Dave Rimmington. So Mick, hey Dave, can you take aspirin to thin the blood at altitude? I know that,
Yeah.
certainly for me, James, the first couple of times I went to altitude, I took one a day. And I know it doesn't have a huge effect, but it was more psychological than anything else.
Yeah.
Have you any thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's definitely something that you can do to thin the blood
Yeah.
because, as we said, the blood does become much thicker when you're at altitude.
Yeah.
My first port of call would always be to look at why the blood is thick,
Yeah.
and actually can we address that with better hydration, and then
Okay.
if that fails or we need something to back that up,
Yeah.
can you hit that with an aspirin?
And I think Leah has asked as well. Leah's all the way from Australia. Evening, Leah. Actually, yeah, it's early hours for you, isn't it, Leah? With the blood thickening, are clots and DVTs more likely at high altitude?
There is some risk, more so around if people are taking oral contraceptive pills.
Yeah.
There's a risk with that,
Okay.
and that's something to discuss with a GP before you go.
Yeah,
but
nice.
generally, the risk there is offset by the fact that you're being active.
Okay.
It's not like being in an airplane where you're just sitting there for 8-9 hours at a time or whatever.
Yeah.
Because you're being active, you're pumping the blood, you're more likely to be okay.
Yeah, nice. And I think it's always, something we always talk about is there's an element of danger in the mountains at altitude anyway. I think you have to be happy with that. I think we talked about it. There's unmanaged danger and managed danger,
Yeah.
and I think certainly at altitude, anything can happen in life.
Yeah.
Whether you're crossing a road in London,
Yeah.
or whether you're at a mountain
Yeah.
in the Himalayas, for example. And I think when it comes to things like blood clots, DVTs, things like that, it can happen. It can. I think I've heard of some
Yeah.
stories, very rarely.
Yeah.
And I think some are on Everest. I know
Yeah.
people who've had blood clots on Everest
Yeah.
because obviously that's a completely different ballgame, of
Yeah.
course. But I think you'd have to accept a little bit of risk. I think if you go into these places.
And that's often when you say about Everest, that's often more so related to edemas. So that's
Okay,
fluid
yeah.
build up on the brain, fluid build up on the lungs, which cause that. Don't worry, you're good. How's it feeling on the knee?
Yes.
Yeah, it's okay. Good stuff. We're just gonna go
Jerome's
for another
asked a
minute
good
here.
question. I'm not sure. He mentioned, would the Evertrek team organise a group visit to the altitude centre sometime? I don't know. I'll have a word with the guys, see if we can
Yeah,
fit you in.
it's something that we had a little conversation about before we came in, and we
Was
thought
it?
it'd be a good thing to do. It's,
Yeah, it'd be
goes-
nice.
Goes down nicely.
I'm sure we can do
Yeah.
that. Although we have got quite a few Evertrekkers, so we'll have to
More the merrier.
see on the numbers. Obviously, we'd love to have everyone in here, but
We'll do it a couple of
yeah.
times.
Yeah, we'll do it a couple of
Yeah,
times.
it's
Yeah,
fine.
that'd be a really good idea, actually. So yeah, Dave Rimmington, and again, apologies guys, I'm repeating myself. What's the lowest oxygen
feel
levels
free
you
to
can operate
drop
on?
Yeah, so I guess that's just the opposite of the question you're saying. When we get
Yeah.
to 6,500 meters,
Yeah.
that is what 9% oxygen
Yeah.
compared to 21% at sea level.
Okay.
So it's quite a drop off.
And the percentage, like the oxygen levels,
Oh, in terms
what
of
would be the lowest
in the blood.
you would say? Okay,
Yeah, we would always get to take the mask off if it gets down to 72%
Yeah.
in the blood. We would always
Okay.
get to take the mask off. And it's one of those where it's not that it necessarily becomes that unsafe because we haven't got you on the mask for that amount of time,
Yeah.
but it's because there's no additional benefit to being lower. And as you say, it's about the risk reward. Like you only need to be in the mid 80s to get the adaptations.
Yeah.
So we don't need to take you much lower than that.
Yeah.
How did that feel cycling?
awesome,
there?
Dave. How are you?
Yeah, that was fine. Yeah. that was marvelous.
What was the scores on the doors? Really good.
Yeah, no, higher in here, but then
Yeah, you
we'll
kind
see.
of
We'll see when I put the mask on. Let's not.
Yeah,
we're not going to
exactly.
celebrate too soon.
Yeah, it dipped down to 93, 94% through the second minute. But then other than that, mostly 95%, 96%, which is fine.
Marvellous.
So I'll grab that one, and then if you want to pop the mask back
El
on,
Masco.
that's right. So yeah, top one there.
I love this. I feel like Ivan Drago.
A couple of things is I think Sital. Hey Sital, nice to see you on the live. Any recommendations for breathing techniques? I know obviously there's a lot out there, aren't
Yeah. Just going to pull the strap up just a little bit higher so it sits above your ears. In terms of breathing techniques,
Yeah.
like people will talk about
there? Like Wim Hof and stuff like
Wim
that. is
Hof
it? Yeah.
and things that they've picked up from yoga practices and things like that, which is fine, if that works for you. The main thing is to think about breathing deeply. You want to give your body as much time as possible. In order to keep the oxygen levels high in the blood, you have to get loads of oxygen into the body first, right?
Yeah.
So breathing in deeply and controlled and through your nose where you can, which we talked about before, because otherwise your throat starts to dry out when you're at
That's
altitude.
what I noticed on there because
Yeah.
I can't actually breathe through my nose. I know we were talking before, so it's my mouth.
Yeah.
It does get dry. I do get that at altitude. Sometimes if that's the
exactly
case
the same,
and you're a mouth breather like me, it's definitely worth wearing a mask, like a buff. Keep the dust out. Very handy.
And the other thing that I quite like on that piece of advice that I was given and I used when I was on Kili was have something like a fruit mento or a starburst or something to keep everything lubricated. Sweet.
I hope my heart rate is right.
Yeah, that's it's just
290.
taking a moment to
You okay?
settle in at the moment, I think. There we go. Seems far more likely. Same with the blood oxygen.
So these are your new lungs, Dave, right?
That's right. Yeah. Well, that is pretty much what's happening. The machine is taking air from the room, sucking the oxygen out of it, feeding it into these bags, and then you're breathing from the bags. Yeah, exactly. And that's why we can maintain such a good flow rate with these with the machines that we have.
Paul Dewhurst. Hey, Paul. Do altitude training masks work the same way? They're a little bit different, aren't we? Because I know we chat a bit about it before.
Yeah, they're very different.
Yeah.
They don't. So what I was saying before about the manipulating the partial pressure of oxygen, they don't do that. You might as well take very small breaths or breathe through a straw or something like that, and that give you a similar effect. They don't have any benefit for altitude, that's for sure.
Yeah.
They might train some of the muscles around your lungs to help you breathe, but for most people, that's not a limiting factor to exercise. So, I mean, the fact that they've had to rebrand them from altitude masks to respiratory training devices
I've seen that a lot,
or whatever,
actually.
I think that probably tells you everything that you need to know about them, to be completely honest with you.
And I think the big thing is that be careful with that, because I've seen a few advertised.
Yeah.
And I know, obviously, every week, guys, we talk about this. Don't rely on those masks. Don't think you can do that, and then you don't have to do the acclimatization when you're out there on a trip. Like, doing the acclimatization on the trips is so important. And don't neglect that and think you can walk faster just because you've practiced with one of those masks. Obviously, I haven't seen any comments in the Evertrekkers group, but I have seen comments in others. So it's just worth dropping in there.
Yeah.
Sarah, hey Sarah, Stringfellow. Hey guys, does being a smoker help or hinder at altitude?
Yeah, it's an interesting one. It might give the impression of helping, but it might be slightly hindering overall. Often we find that people who smoke have better numbers in terms of their blood oxygen saturation than people who don't. But overall, the impact on cardiorespiratory fitness and the negative impact on cardiorespiratory fitness is probably outweighing that benefit. So it's a mixed bag.
It's a mixed bag, isn't it? Yeah. Great stuff. Yeah, it's quite interesting. I've seen, especially in Nepal, I've seen quite a few of the locals smoke a lot.
Yeah.
And obviously they're, because they live in an altitude and it's completely different. Obviously they're already acclimatized.
Yeah.
Don't join in.
Yeah.
I remember seeing someone, I think it was a few years back, and we were at Everest Base Camp and she was smoking something that wasn't a cigarette.
Yeah.
Something to do with green. And she then climbed Kala Patthar and almost had to get carried down. I think you told me about that, right? So it's not something we recommend, obviously.
First ever trip.
Ramona's saying, am I the only one laughing here? I thought you're doing really well. Your heart rate's bloody really good, isn't it?
Yeah, we'd take that one with a pinch of salt. It's the blood oxygen that we're mostly interested in at this point. And
I think everyone's, this is like a medical experiment. Dave, doing this weeks after surgery, well done. That's from Ramona. Brilliant. Now, it's one of those things, we obviously can't wait to get back to altitude. And have you got any trips on the horizon, James?
I haven't at the moment, unfortunately, no. At the moment, it's one of those where we're just training so that once we can travel, we're back on it. But we were talking before about Nepal, and that's a part of the world that I'm just desperate to get out to. So, we'll be continuing that conversation, that's for sure.
Yeah, no, we'd love to have you on the trip. I think ultimately now with training, and I suppose another question off the top of my head for yourself is, like, how far in advance would you say, okay, right, let's start this training now before your trip?
In terms of doing this baseline, we'd always rather get people doing it sooner rather than later, because if you've got 12 months available to you, you want to make the most of it. You don't want to get to a month before your trip and go, oh my god, I wish I'd done that baseline assessment beforehand. So it might be that you only need to train for a couple of months beforehand, but if you know that a year out, then you're in the position to make that decision.
And I know it's been challenging because we've had a lot of Evertrekkers who, some of them have had to reschedule their trip like
you can stop there, mate.
3, sometimes 4 times.
Just keep that.
Which can screw up your training in a way, but doing more is not going to hurt. And I know a lot of Evertrekkers have been out there training. You okay? Mate, you're doing well. Stats look good. What height was that? Was that the
so that was 3,800 metres.
Nice, Everest view.
So again, looking pretty good on that one, to be fair.
Yeah.
Blood oxygen saturation was lower than it was when you were resting, as we'd expect.
Yeah.
But not a lot lower. You were more low 90s. You dipped towards 88, 89% through the 4th minute. But to have that as a low point is pretty good.
Yeah.
And yeah, when you were just passively at that altitude, you were more like 95, 96%. So again, you can see the impact that, you know, what is fairly light exercise in terms of the absolute intensity suddenly becomes very difficult when you add in that altitude.
I think pedaling at that cadence,
Yeah.
at that altitude, I can take it off, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Well, now you know, mate. If you're
Yeah,
biking.
pedaling at that cadence,
Yeah.
at altitude,
Yeah.
I think would be pretty,
Yeah.
pretty savage.
Yeah.
You know, but that's actually, it's really interesting because
Yeah.
it's a, I don't know, it's like a difference between, I think it starts off as subtle, you notice it subtly,
Yeah.
and then obviously cycling like that for this length of time would normally,
Yeah.
you wouldn't be sweating, you wouldn't be out of breath. So I think it is quite interesting that just having done that with the low oxygen has worked my body a bit harder.
Yeah. It's pushed it a bit, isn't it? And I know, you know, we
when
were
you-
talking before, we're probably not at our prime levels of fitness, but
Far from it, mate, far from it. I left my prime level of fitness on the mountain not long after I crashed. But yeah, it's really interesting.
there's a few other questions coming through from Brooke, who has already been here. Hey, Brooke. But she was asking how often we need to visit for it to have any effect.
Yeah, we'd be looking at like 2 or 3 sessions a week. And then if you're looking at 2 or 3 sessions a week for 4 to 6 weeks, you start to see the benefits over and above if you're doing the same training at sea level in terms of your fitness and in terms of your acclimatization.
Yeah, Brooke said she's ready for the Killy mountain bike now, Dave.
Awesome.
Soon, Brooke.
Soon, yeah, no, that's I certainly will be in here 2 to 3 times a week doing that training.
Yeah.
Because there's just no other way to really simulate that.
No.
You know, like unless I go
if you want those
cycling in the
benefits.
Alps, which is probably even more inconvenient. but no, yeah, it's like I said, it's strange. It's having been to altitude before, it doesn't feel unfamiliar. It doesn't even feel that aggressive a change. It's a subtle difference I'm feeling at the moment. Like normally after doing that for this length of time, the room's quite cool.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be sweating really.
Yeah.
You know, but just doing that, you can tell that I've been breathing harder.
Yeah, you've done well.
harder.
You've done well.
And then, but yeah, to be honest, like as altitude aside, I'm pretty pleased with how my knees doing.
Yeah, mate, I know. I'm very impressed.
Yeah.
Just something, Graham, before we'll go into Dave's last bit there. What's the cost of an altitude test and a checkup then? I know the consultation, and I know we've obviously got obviously a deal
30%
anyway.
discount for Evertrekkers on the baseline assessment. It's 199. It's the baseline assessment. So we go through all of this. What you've not seen on the live is the testing that we did beforehand as well. So we went through some health checks, looked at some things like your lung function, blood pressure, really simple stuff, but has to be done. And did the passive testing as well. So it's kind of a 90-minute, hour and 45 consultation that we take you through in the full thing. Yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
So definitely, in terms of the link, I know we've got it. We've got the email address on there already, haven't we? Yes.
Yeah. So just drop us an email with city@altitudecenter.com.
Nice.
So straight down the barrel. I've done that before.
Good man. I know we've also as well, and I'm sure because just in terms of touch points, if you in the members area, you do have a form there which you can fill in, which goes directly to you guys, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Again, it's just another point of contact. If obviously you can't remember that email, just do that as well.
Yeah.
And the guys, they've obviously had a lot
Yeah,
over the
yeah,
last
yeah, yeah.
since we've
No,
teamed
it's
up.
been good.
But no, it's been great. And I know a lot of Evertrekkers really value that.
Yeah.
Just that little bit of knowledge, and obviously from us, we do these trips usually. We've done so over the last 5 years with a lot of success. But the one thing I like about you, obviously yourself, James, and the team, obviously you come at it from a scientific approach as well.
Yeah.
And obviously it works.
Yeah.
And it's great seeing this data actually. There's so much you can learn from that.
There is a lot that you can learn from it. And we come at it from the scientific angle, but we have all been to Killy as well. Everyone who works for the team, we have got the experience of being at altitude. So
This is nice. Altitude is actually cooling me at the moment. I'm getting so
Right, before let's get you on then, Dave.
Yeah.
You've gone up to Gorakshep now, okay?
Just make that
Thank you.
adjustment there.
I know you love Gorakshep.
Yeah, it's really picturesque.
Yeah. So going high again now. So it's 5,100 meters.
Brilliant.
11% oxygen on this one. So it drops it down again. And again, we'll see how we
Nice,
go
Dave.
through.
It's just while you guys setting that up as well. Don't forget, guys, we're doing the Kilimanjaro the Long Way competition at the moment. Ali on the comments if you could put the link to enter in that competition. Obviously, jump in there. It's for anyone, obviously the winner and a friend, to come with us to Kilimanjaro. I know we've done a similar thing in the past. Obviously, get yourself involved, guys. And we're doing it's on Tuesday, the 27th of July. Let me check. Yep, which is 2 weeks today. So you've got a little bit of time to enter it. Get yourself involved, and then once you enter as well, you get the full kind of walkthrough of the journey, videos, which Steve behind the camera was come with us a very long time ago now. And obviously you can see exactly what you're going to win and exactly what you're going to get. So get involved, guys. Ali, if you can pop that link in the comments, that would be awesome. Just a few more questions then. Let's have a look. Mick Hamilton. Hey, Mick. Got to mention Island Peak just when Mick's on, because Mick's been at Everest Base Camp before, but he wants to do Island Peak, and I think he's rescheduled 3 or 4 times now, so he just wants to get out there. Obviously super frustrating, and we know what it's like, Mick. Great guy though. We spent some time on training weekend in Wales, which is brilliant, which is now his second home, because he's always over there. But he did ask, what about age, i.e. over 60? Obviously cool to come in and do that.
It doesn't seem to affect it too much, to be honest with you, in terms of how you deal with the altitude. It seems to be that at a population level, people who are older tend to be a little bit less fit. That's massively individual. But that seems to be the only impact of age, really, rather than how you actually deal with the altitude itself.
Okay. Yeah, 100%. A mix, definitely not, I would say, average 60-year-old.
Exactly.
Ex-military, very fit, very driven. He's which I think is important, because it's got to be about where you're at mentally, obviously, and physically as well.
But the mental side of things is massively important, because you're up there for so long. It's long days of walking as well, and that's something that we'll always say to people.
Yeah, Andy, who's just commented as well, he's booked Island Peak for 2023.
Brilliant.
He'll be 57. No problem, Andy.
Yeah, absolutely not.
You do well, mate. It's we can't wait to go. We were talking about Island Peak earlier. You okay?
Yeah.
Is the knee okay? Okay. Almost done, mate. Keep going. How long we got left? What we
got
up to?
another 2 minutes left.
2 minutes. 2 minutes, Dave. You can do it, mate. You can do it. Stats are looking good. I bet everyone's just open your knees up.
Yeah, but you can see again how deeply he's breathing, because he's completely emptying these bags each time. That's how deeply he's breathing now at this point.
Come on, Dave. Working up to top of Killy now. Come on. Great stuff. It's mad, because we've been on for almost over 50 minutes already. So I think once we're done, we'll have a little bit of a chat, and then we'll hopefully finish in about 5 minutes. So obviously, thanks for everyone that's joined today. Any other questions, though, do drop them in, guys. I think we covered so much already. I think Diane, actually. Diane, hey Diane. Looking at, so if I find my oxygen levels drop too quickly during a session at the altitude centre, is there anything I could specifically do to improve that? The team, obviously, they train really hard already.
Absolutely. It's all about time spent at altitude. I'm just going to get you to stop there, because the blood oxygen has just dipped down to a level that will get you to stop the test at. So just stop a little bit earlier with that one, So if you just pop the mask off there.
Well done, Dave.
It's just come down.
Good simulation.
At that point.
Nailed it, mate.
Yeah. But still, to get through the best part of 3.5 minutes on that test is still very good.
Well done.
Woo!
Yeah.
It feels okay, it's just...
It's
just hard to physically draw the breath at the moment.
Yeah, well, that's what we saw. As I say, you're emptying the bags there, and
okay.
There we go.
Right.
Perfect.
Is it okay?
Yeah, I feel great. Because of the knee, everyone's.
I know. The comments are coming through. I'm thinking they're all worried about you.
No, I feel great. It's warmed up.
Perfect. If you want to pop the mask off the thing there and just pop it back in your back in the bag.
Just reading some of the comments again, guys. So another question, Leah from all the way from Australia again. Have you known of anyone that has trained at altitude on anticoagulants? I'm trying to. What are they?
Anticoagulants. So it's to do with stopping your blood from clotting.
Okay.
Anticoagulants? No, not personally.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think what the interaction could be, and the honest answer is that I don't know off the top of my head, and I would look for a doctor's advice who's prescribing the anticoagulants.
Good show.
Provided that you're good to exercise, I don't see that there'd be any reason not to be at moderate altitude, at least.
Yeah, that's about. I think we definitely. Yeah, because I haven't heard of that before. It's a good question though.
Yeah.
We could definitely do some research ourselves.
Yeah.
But yeah, Leah, definitely check out with your doctor, mate.
Yeah.
And again, I'm sure it'd be fine. But right, guys, anything else, Dave, before we kind of
I picked up
finish
someone
up? 'Cause
else's
I think
phone
we're
there.
Well, you were talking about the training before
Yeah.
we cut off, and
yeah.
you know, the main thing is about accumulating plenty of time at altitude. That's the main thing. So in terms of, you know, that could be exercising at altitude. In terms of acclimatization, one of the best things to be doing is what we call the pod.
Yeah.
So it's basically pre-acclimatizing before you go. So it's using the equipment that we've used today, breathing intermittently through the mask.
Yeah.
So 5 minutes with the mask on, 5 minutes with the mask off. And that's simulating altitudes 4,000 meters and upwards. And the more time you can get with that, the better acclimatized anyone's going to be for whatever.
I need to spend some time in the pod. That sounds like my type of
Yeah.
acclimatization, you know, because that was fascinating. Actually, it was really fun.
Yeah.
And what I found quite interesting was how quick that saturation level dropped.
Yeah.
I noticed that yours.
Like-
what was it? 70.
Because I think my pulse rate stayed
Yeah, yeah.
relatively stable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But do you know what? It was almost like my breath was getting ahead of me. So it got a little bit harder to breathe.
Yeah.
And then subsequent breaths, it's like you're trying to recoup what you didn't get the
you're
breath
absolutely
before.
right. And it just spirals from there. And you're right, the blood oxygen saturation just came down so quickly. You were mid-80s and you were fine, and then all of a sudden it was actually, I want to stop this test
Yeah.
now because you've got down to...
Yeah.
And that was interesting because I actually felt it, you know, and I wondered if it was psychological because I'll be honest, I didn't even look at the bags, those lungs. And then as soon as I saw them like sucked in empty, my mind, I think, was like saying, there's none left, Dave. You know. But that was fascinating, and I really actually enjoyed that test.
Well,
And,
everyone said you done so well, mate. Like everyone's saying, yeah, great job, Dave. That's from Marky V. James Ashley says the pod in the pub. That's a great idea. Not sure about that, but talk about that off.
Yeah,
James.
exactly. We'll sort something out off camera, I think.
No, this is brilliant. Well, look, obviously it's been great, and James, you know, thanks so much, mate, for doing that, and obviously inviting us down.
I'm
And
not going to shake your hand on the live, James, because
Yeah,
I'm going to wait
no,
till that dries off a bit, okay? But
Appreciate
no,
that.
it's been great, and like we talked about there, and don't forget that you've got the 30% off the consultation with the guys as well. Definitely give it a shout, guys. It's fascinating for me personally, having been to altitude like several times. I think my body's definitely remembered.
Yeah.
But it's certainly very useful if, for example, you know, you want to see how, if you've never been to altitude before and you want to maybe see how you're going to perform at altitude. I think it's fascinating to know where you're at.
Yeah.
But don't be, and as we said, and I think Diane's question was about, don't be put off if your scores aren't great, because you've got a chance then to work at it.
Well, no, and also
that's
it's
exactly
relative
right.
as well, because, you know, we stopped my test there because my blood oxygen got really low.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've summited Killy and I've been to base camp
Exactly.
4 or 5 times.
Yeah.
4 times. And it's never been as low as that.
Yeah.
But I think coming here, doing that, having a baseline to improve upon would be great. Like, because I already know with my type of psychology that the next time I come, well, I've got to finish the fight. And then the time after that, it's like, what was my lowest? 82. Right, it's not going below 85.
Yeah.
And I think treating it like that, like a challenge, treating acclimatization like part of the challenge, and it is an intrinsically, well, it's probably the most important part, because without the altitude, it's no different than going to the Peak District or going to Brecon. I mean, it is a little bit different, but in terms of the difficulty level, it ramps it up. And I think it's nothing to be afraid of, just learnt about.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the key thing that I'd say. The more that you can know about it and the more that you can experience it, the better prepared you're going to be.
Yeah,
Exactly.
Awesome.
All right, well, cheers, guys. Thanks for all joining us. I hope
Thanks,
that was
guys.
it's a little bit different to our normal Tuesday tune-in.
Right, and where's my knee brace? I'm joking.
I thought you were
No, it's fine. No, it feels great after like warming up and loosening up.
Yeah.
It's it's great.
And obviously, thanks to Steve and Zach, they're behind the camera today, but they set everything up for us, brought all the way to London.
Yeah.
So to obviously set everything up as you see it now, or what was it said? Good Morning Britain trekking style, someone said on the last one. So yeah, we hope you enjoyed today.
Yeah.
And we'll be back next week with something a little bit different. We won't be here. We'll be back in the office for another Tuesday tune-in. But yeah, thanks guys.
Brilliant.
Awesome.
See you
Thanks,
next week.
guys. Take care. Bye.
Bye.